Some Medicaid data will soon be available to ICE agents. The Trump administration argues actions like this are necessary for their crackdown on immigration.
Hello, everyone. What's up, guys? The Trump administration has approved a new data sharing agreement that allows U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, limited access to certain Medicaid records. ICE is now authorized to view select personal data of millions of Americans enrolled in the Medicaid program. This includes names, home addresses, dates of birth, ethnicities, and partial Social Security numbers, information that can be used to help determine whether individuals are residing in the country legally and are eligible to receive taxpayer-funded health benefits. According to federal law, undocumented immigrants are generally not permitted to enroll in full Medicaid coverage. However, in emergency situations, such as life-threatening conditions or childbirth, they can still receive limited services through Emergency Medicaid. Despite this safeguard, the new agreement signals a broader push by the administration to ensure that regular Medicaid funds are not extended to individuals who do not meet the legal eligibility criteria. This new initiative is part of a broader immigration enforcement strategy being carried out by the Trump administration. Immigration authorities have been tasked with arresting approximately 3,000 undocumented immigrants per day. As part of that effort, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE are actively seeking new tools to help identify individuals who may be in the country unlawfully and who may also be benefiting from government services they are not legally entitled to access. The agreement itself is highly specific and includes several restrictions meant to limit the scope of data access. For example, ICE officers are not permitted to download, copy, or retain any of the Medicaid data they view. Their access is restricted to office hours, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and is scheduled to expire on September 9th unless renewed. Officials have described this access as temporary, narrowly focused, and bound by legal guardrails intended to prevent misuse. Still, the announcement has triggered alarm among immigration attorneys, healthcare providers, and civil rights organizations. Many worry that this arrangement, while technically limited, could create a chilling effect, discouraging immigrant communities from seeking medical care for fear that their personal data might be shared with federal immigration authorities. This could have broad public health implications, particularly among populations managing chronic conditions or requiring ongoing treatment. Dr. Edgar Chavez, a physician in Los Angeles, noted that even before this policy, he observed a sharp decline in clinic visits among his undocumented patients, many of whom struggle with conditions such as hypertension and diabetes. The fear of immigration enforcement has already led many to avoid hospitals and clinics, and Dr. Chavez fears that news of this new data-sharing arrangement could intensify that reluctance. For public health professionals, the concern isn't just about compliance with immigration law. It's about ensuring that patients receive the medical care they need without fear. Immigration lawyers share similar concerns. Radlin Mendoza, a practicing immigration attorney, explained that even immigrants who are actively working through legal channels, those on the path to adjustment of status or awaiting asylum decisions, may now hesitate to apply for benefits they are legally entitled to. She emphasized that many such individuals rely on Medicaid coverage for their U.S.-born children who are citizens. The fear is that any interaction with the healthcare system, even on behalf of a child, might trigger scrutiny from ICE or result in unintended legal consequences. One of the more controversial aspects of the agreement is the potential for mistaken identity or racial profiling. Critics argue that U.S. citizens or legal residents with Latino names could be wrongly flagged, leading to unnecessary investigations or even wrongful detention. California Attorney General Rob Bonta described the agreement as an unprecedented weaponization of sensitive personal data. He and other Democratic leaders have voiced strong opposition, arguing that the arrangement undermines trust in both the healthcare system and government institutions. It's important to understand how Medicaid functions at the state and federal levels. While Medicaid is jointly funded by federal and state governments, individual states set their own rules regarding eligibility and benefits. California, for example, is one of only 7 states that offer some form of regular Medicaid coverage to undocumented immigrants, typically children or elderly residents with limited income. In most other states, undocumented immigrants are only eligible for emergency coverage, which does not include routine or preventive care. That state-federal divide is part of what makes this new agreement so controversial. Sanctuary jurisdictions like California have long resisted cooperating with federal immigration enforcement. Local lawmakers argue that immigration status should not be a barrier to receiving basic health care. They also warn that any erosion of privacy protections could have long-lasting effects on vulnerable populations, especially those who are already hesitant to engage with government systems due to past experiences or fear of deportation. From the federal perspective, however, the argument is focused on program integrity. DHS and ICE maintain that this data-sharing agreement is not about targeting families or children. It is about ensuring that limited government resources are used appropriately and in compliance with federal law. ICE agents, according to the agreement, must obtain judicial warrants to make arrests or conduct searches, even if Medicaid data identifies an individual as potentially undocumented. As of now, ICE does not have the ability to run bulk queries or scan entire Medicaid databases. Each data access session must be justified on a case-by-case basis, and records must be manually reviewed by designated officers during the approved timeframe. The agencies involved have stated that this process ensures accountability and prevents misuse. Still, critics worry that this type of agreement could open the door to more expansive surveillance programs. Once a precedent is set for cross-agency data sharing, it can be difficult to draw the line. Privacy advocates caution that government databases, originally designed to administer public benefits, should not be repurposed for immigration enforcement, especially when the potential risks to health and civil liberties are so high. Legal experts are also watching closely to see whether this agreement sparks any constitutional challenges. The right to privacy, due process, and equal protection under the law are all potentially implicated by the sharing of sensitive data between healthcare agencies and law enforcement. Whether this agreement survives legal scrutiny may depend on how it is implemented and whether there are any reported abuses or unintended consequences. In the meantime, community organizers are working to educate immigrant families about their rights and encourage them not to abandon essential healthcare services. Several organizations are distributing Know Your Rights materials in multiple languages, emphasizing that many immigrants, especially those with U.S. citizen children, still qualify for some healthcare benefits and should not be afraid to seek treatment. It remains to be seen whether the September 9th expiration date will be extended or whether the agreement will be scaled back in response to public pressure. What is clear is that immigration enforcement has once again intersected with public health policy in ways that raise difficult questions about privacy, fairness, and the role of government. For now, the Trump administration is signaling that stricter immigration enforcement remains a top priority, and that includes looking more closely at where taxpayer dollars are going. Whether this new approach will result in more efficient enforcement or broader harm is a question that may only be answered in the months to come. We'll continue to follow this story and provide updates on any legal developments, policy changes, or impacts on the immigrant community as they unfold.